You are tuned in to the Post Route Show. Here's your host, Earl W. Earl Kitchens.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Post Route. We're so happy that you're with us again tonight. We are pleasured and happy to bring another quarterback to you tonight. And let me tell you, every time we can bring one of these guys onto the Post Route, it just makes this show and this fraternity that we call Quarter Five Back. It just strengthens who we are and what we're doing. For those of you who might be the first time watchers and listeners, our show, The Post Route, is a show that comes on weekly, and we want to talk to as many black quarterbacks who played this game of American football as possible from both the black colleges and the predominantly white colleges. We just want to talk to these guys, hear the stories. There's nothing like a good story when a guy can tell you a great story from his playing days. That's a great thing. And tonight it'll be no different because we've got a guy who made his bones up there in that state of Virginia. Yes, he did. He put the University of Virginia, they were on the map. They were on the map. Yeah, they might have been on the map in basketball. They had a guy there by the name of Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson helped put them on the map. But this guy put Cavalier football on the ACC map. He put them on the radar back in the late 80s, early 90s. And we're just so happy and honored to be bringing him to the show tonight because as I said, as we continue to build this show with these guys who are phenomenal athletes who played outstanding football during their both collegiate, some of them both collegiate and professional careers. And it's interesting to see them leave college and make their way to the pros. Some of them last a little while in the NFL and last a long time in the CFL, Canadian Football League. Some of them last a long time in the NFL and maybe not ever go to the CFL or even Arena League. And now that we have the UFL coming on, they now have opportunities to extend their playing opportunities beyond just the NFL or the CFL. Now you have the Arena Football Leagues. We have the UFL coming on board in the spring. And let me give a quick shout out to my guy up there in Minnesota, Ricky Foggy and the Minnesota Miss. They're getting ready to get their season started up there in another version of indoor football, Arena League football. So best wishes to Ricky Foggy and the Minnesota Miss that he's the head coach of that organization. But again, tonight, the guy we're bringing to you tonight finished fourth in the 1990 Heisman Trophy balloting, was the 1990 ACC Player of the Year. Probably the guy who has the most passing yards at the University of Virginia. And then he's gone on to just last year be inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. So please help me in welcoming our guest tonight, the one, the only Sean Moore of the University of Virginia. Hey, Sean, how's it going, big guy?
Fantastic. I appreciate that, man. That was a heck of an introduction. I appreciate it.
No problem at all, man. No problem at all. Like I told you earlier, my juices get going, man, when I talk to you guys because having watched you play and then having a chance to talk to you and just hear, as I said, the stories. And we're cataloging all our shows, so we're having all these great stories. So I don't want to cut you short by not having your great story because you are definitely a guy, as I said, who put Virginia football on the map. But before you got to Virginia, you said you're from this little racing town called Martinsville. Talk about what it was like in that little small town of Martinsville, playing high school football back in the 80s.
Back then, man, that there was, I had a lot of guys to look up to. I had a
Okay.
cousin Jesse Penn, who played at Virginia Tech, played for the Dallas Cowboys. Jesse was
Okay.
a big deal coming out of Martinsville. Carl Big Daddy Harrison, who played at Maryland Eastern Shore.
Yeah.
Daddy
Yeah.
was a big deal, played at my high school. Dennis Mahan, who played at Hampton University and was drafted by Seattle. So there were some dudes now that came
Okay.
out for me. Uh,
Okay.
And quite honestly, and I tell folks this all the time, Martinsville was more known for basketball. We had a heck of a basketball tradition there. And I was fortunate enough to play on 2 state championship teams. But we had a legendary coach who coached there for 40 years.
Wow.
One of his coaches in high school history in Virginia, Husky Hall, passed away a couple of years ago. But I always thought basketball was my first love. So my best friend and I both played together in high school, and both went to the University of Virginia. He went on basketball scholarship, and I went on football scholarship. So,
well, drop his name, man. Drop his name.
Mark Cook, man. He's
Mark Cook.
My guy. We've been together since 7th grade. So, Mark went on to play basketball at UVA, and I played football at UVA. So it worked out great for us, coming out of little town of Martinsville.
Would they let you play basketball and football? You think that would have happened?
Here's the crazy part. I probably love basketball more than Mark. And I wanted to play basketball at the collegiate level. I think that was literally my first love. That's what I did all day long, all summer, from the AAU circuit to just pick up games. But I didn't have the height. I was only 6'3". Back then, if you're going to be a forward, you had to be 6'6", 6'7". Mark was only 6'5".
Okay.
And he was a starting center in high school at 6'5". But to go and play college basketball in the ACC during that day, when you had Michael Jordan and Lenny Bias and all the great teams in the ACC, that was a big deal for him to go and play basketball at UVA. But it worked. The amazing thing was when Mark got to UVA, he ended up playing 2 years of basketball for Coach Terry Holland, and then switched over and played football with me at the University. He became the starting tight end.
Wow.
It wasn't in the cards for him to get a lot of playing time as a 6'5" center. So he came over and kind of he rejuvenated his football career. He only played 1 year of high school football his senior year.
Wow.
Then came to UVA and became the starting tight end. So he's had a phenomenal story. Now I wish if the roles could have been switched, I would have loved to play basketball. But we had, my backup quarterback, Matt Blunden, who was a round pick for Kansas City Chiefs. Matt played, he was a starting power forward on the basketball team. And then we had Terry Kirby, who was heralded player of the year in both football and basketball in 1989. He played basketball and football while I was there. So we had dudes that played both sports. So it wasn't going to happen for me. I just, like I said, I didn't have the height.
So when your partner came to the football team, was he giving you the old wink about getting some passes? Because, tight ends don't get much love. But it's like, that's your boy. So it's like, hey, man, I know you're going to spend me a few. Now, don't leave me out here hanging. I don't want to be blocking all the time. Throw me a few passes.
Yeah, he we lived together too. So he was always taking a look. You could do me a small favor, give me a couple paws for my mom and my girlfriend here in the stands.
Exactly.
But, no, we've always had a unique relationship. And so we're still besties to this day. And he just moved back to Charlottesville. So it makes being here even more fun for me.
Well, that's a great thing, man. And of course, you got a chance to become the starter as a redshirt sophomore. You led the team that year to a 7-4. But then, man, you come back in 1990, your last year, man, and y'all play like gangbusters. I mean, what got into you guys? I mean, what caused that change to happen?
Back then, is the unique thing about that team was the 90 team. The 89 team was just as good. 89 was our first ACC championship team.
Right.
That team consists of a lot of leadership in terms of juniors and seniors. But the 90 team, we had 17 fifth-year seniors. Wow. So all of us were in grad school.
Okay.
We came back, we just kind of made a pact. Hey, man, we're going to come back. Some of us are going to get our graduate degrees. Some of us are just going to come back to play football. And so we all made a pact to come back together. And so there's a lot of leadership on that team. You got 17 fifth-year seniors. I mean, we're grown men.
That's right.
We didn't know how good we would be because we did lose a couple guys from the 89 team. Mm-hmm. But we had some young guys, the Chris Slades and Terry Kirby, who was, players of the year in the state of Virginia. But that 90 team was special. It truly was. And then you throw, Herman Moore, Herman finished 6th in the Heisman that year. So you throw him in the mix with the guys, Terry Kirby, and we had a tight end who was drafted. One of the things I talk about when I talk about the 89 and 90 teams, specifically 90, is there were probably 17 guys on that team that played in the NFL.
Mm,
That's a lot of
that's a lot of
professional.
guys.
Yeah,
That's a lot of guys, man.
yeah.
That's a lot of guys.
17, and that ranged anywhere from the kind of a 3 or 4 year period. You know, my senior year, it was me, Herman, Tony Covington, who was 4th round draft pick. Bruce McGonigal was a tight end draft pick. We had 3 linemen that all went on played in the NFL. That's a lot of pros on that team, man. So, you know, I said in my Virginia Sports Hall of Fame speech, I was fortunate because I was surrounded by great players. I just, you know, just happened to be one of the leaders of that team, but I was surrounded by great players.
So 2 quick questions. So now, what is it like when you guys make it to the league and then you're playing against each other? Because you guys know that y'all were teammates in college, but now you're playing against each other. What kind of synergy is going on, man, when that is going on? I mean, I know there's some love and some fellowship, man, but before the game, that's what it is. But when you get out on that field, I mean, I know guys out there cracking smart remarks and things like that, especially from offense to defense. But what is that like? I that's the first time I've asked one of these guys about that relationship playing against a teammate on the field in the pros. What is that like?
Well, because of that the college experience and the unique bond you have of playing with a guy from 4 or 5 years, and as I said, so many guys on that 90 team went on to play professionally. So I got a chance as a professional athlete and playing, you know, in Denver and also with Arizona to play against a lot of my college teammates. And you know, I always thought it was funny, particularly if I'm on offense and the guy's on defense, and I'm fortunate enough to get in the game and he's in the game at the same time. It's almost hilarious to just listen to the guy, you know, trying to rattle me, knowing he's not going to rattle me. But it happened on a number of occasions. You know, I remember it was a preseason game. One of my teammates was talking my head off. He was playing safe, and I threw like an 80-yard touchdown to Shannon Sharp right over top of him. And I just looked at him and just shook my head like, man, you know better.
So in your own way, you know, there's that undercurrent of trash talking, brotherly love all at the same time. But of course, I'm sure if a defensive guy got a chance, who was a teammate, got a chance to sack you or tackle you, you know, while y'all were down, you know, the mics aren't there, but somebody's talking, saying something. Hey, Sean, good to see you today, man. You better tell them guys to block.
Oh, for sure. No doubt. No doubt.
Now, my other question is this. And like I said, man, I watch you spin it, and I watch you spin it to Herman on several occasions. What was that relationship like to have a class receiver like that as your teammate at a program that hadn't always had that level of talent, and now you guys are that upper echelon? What was that like throwing the balls to him?
So, you know, Herman had one of the best lines at his, he was inducted into the Detroit Lions Ring of Honor.
Okay.
And he, you know, I was fortunate enough to be invited and flown up and sit front row with his family. He had, you know, his college quarterback and his pro quarterback there, the guys he had played with. And one of the things he said, and I'll never forget as long as I live, he said, there would be no Herman Moore without Sean Moore. And I said the same thing at my induction speech, really, because he made me a better player. And I'm sure he, you know, he felt like I made him a better player because, you know, we did have such a unique bond. And during that time frame of 88, 89, and 90, where we were playing together, we got better as the years progressed. So by the time we became seniors in 90 playing together, we felt like no one could stop us. You know, Herman would talk so much stuff. And before the game, he would let teams know, you're not going to stop me. You're not going to single cover me. And I just shake my head. I'm like, well, he's right, but I'm not. That's not for me. I don't really talk that kind of smack pregame. But he would let guys know, man, you're not going to stop me.
Well, you know, that trash talking is a way to get in a guy's head. You know, you get in the guy's head, you know, and you do some things, and you make a move or you make a catch, and you just shake your head and you let him know, hey man, I'll be right back now. My man is hot. I'm coming right back at you.
Exactly.
So those kind of things are good, man, and to know that you guys had a bond, and I'm sure. How much extra practice did you guys work on so that you could be that tandem that, you know, you didn't even have to say anything. You could just look at him and he could look at you and know right then what you're going to do.
You know, Herman used to talk about that. You know, we had, which I'm sure it's done a lot today, but we had kind of signals to one another if he was in single coverage, because he was always the X receiver. The X receiver is usually the receiver that's to the short side of the field by himself. If you're in like a twins package, there's two receivers are going to be to the field. But he was always backside by himself. Okay. So that meant most of the time he's going to be in single coverage. So he just had we had different signals. If he touched his helmet, I knew that he was going to run by the guy. He touched his helmet, and I just kind of glanced at him. I knew what was happening. So, but he was a phenomenal guy, phenomenal receiver during his time. It's funny because he had a tough transition into the NFL.
Okay.
And he had a tough time. And the crazy part, no one probably ever knew this, but he needed glasses. So he got contact lens. I think by his second year as a professional player, he got contact lens, and it made a world of difference in terms of him catching the football. And I've said this, you know, I've had talked to some friends about kind of his playing career. Herman will eventually, in my opinion, be inducted into the Professional Football Hall of Fame. I think he had such a 5-year run where, I mean, it was Herman Moore, Chris Carter, and Jerry Rice. It was those three every year in the Pro Bowl. I mean, that dude was special.
Oh, he was.
And he played probably 10, 15 different quarterbacks in the pro level.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, when you hear about guys needing glasses, and I always have thought that, you know, black frame glasses always make a guy against you think you're slow. You know, that's just a psychological advantage. And I know Chuck Muncie used to wear glasses, man. They used to be the black frames, and they looked like they were real thick. And you think, man, this guy can't be that good. He's slow. And then the next thing you know, you're chasing him. So I can understand that little minor thing helped Herman become a better ball player. And, you know, that transition. So you talk about transition, Sean. What was that transition like for you to go from a collegiate quarterback to a professional quarterback?
It was extremely difficult. I played, you know, I talk about kind of what Herman meant to my career. The other key component for me was having Gary Tranquill. Gary Tranquill was the offensive coordinator for 4 years at the University of Virginia. I was there from 86 to 90. He came in 87.
Okay.
He was the head coach at Naval Academy in 86. He got fired from Naval Academy and came to Virginia because he worked with George Welsh previously at Naval Academy. Gary Tranquill was by far the best teacher I've ever had, ever. Taught me the game of football, taught me the position of quarterback, taught me how to everything from just being able to read a defense, read a front. He was instrumental in my advancement in terms of being from a collegiate player to a pro player. And coincidentally, Gary left when I graduated in 90. He went to the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
He went to the pros and worked with the pros, then came back to college. But he was extremely instrumental in helping me. When I got to Denver as a rookie, you know, I'm in a room with John Elway, Gary Kubiak. Those were the two quarterbacks at the time. They both came out in the '83 draft, and they had been there. You know, they had been there 7 seasons already. They had been in multiple Super Bowls.
Right.
But going into a room with those guys, it was extremely difficult just in terms of comprehending something. I've been in an offense for 5 years and running this, you know, this pro style offense that compiled of three wideouts, 4 wideouts, you know, different personnel packages, and then having to go learn. You know, Dan Reeves was the coach at the time, and at that time, Dan was of the mindset of Tom Landry. So most people, when they think of football, they think of 2-4-6-8 even right, 1-3-5-7 odd left. Right. That's just how football's been taught since Pop Warner.
Yep.
But Dan looked at it from a defensive perspective. So everything 1-3-5-7, 1-3-5-7-9 was to the right, 2-4-6-8 was to the left. So it was completely, everything was opposite. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to play at that level, you just had to learn it. John and Gary had been in it for 7 years. So they knew the system like the back of their hand.
Right, of course.
Mike Shanahan was our quarterback coach. So you're talking about learning from great guys, Gary Tranquil, Dan Reeves, and Mike Shanahan. I've learned from some of the best in terms of football minds. So I was fortunate enough to be in that offense and be in that organization for 3 years was one of the great experiences I had in my professional football career.
So you get to Denver, you got a Kubiak, you got an Elway. What was it like? I mean, were those guys mentors who embraced you when you got to Denver? Did they welcome you and make an extra effort to engage you and teach you and make sure that the little intricacies of the game you knew about to help you in your progression?
I think it took a while. I think that first year, everyone is skeptical looking at this 11th round draft pick, and it was like, well, why are they drafting a quarterback? And but I think it took a year of kind of getting to know one another. And coincidentally, my first year, we were 12-4 and played in the AFC Championship game against Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl. We lose that game. I think we lost the game like 9-6. It was a cold day in Buffalo. We lost the game. But that second year was a big year for me because having gone through that entire offense and not having the pressure of having to play as a rookie, I got a chance to learn and work the scout team every day and go against one of the top defenses in the league every day in practice. But when I came into camp my second year, I would say I was fully prepared. And Gary had just retired. Kubiak retired going into my second year. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to inherit this backup role. Right. But they brought two guys in. They drafted a quarterback in the first round, and they brought a free agent in. So here I am. I went from number 2 with my mindset to number 4 on the depth chart by the time we got to training camp.
Wow.
So I said to myself, well, I know the offense. They don't. So one of the things I will always, treasure my relationship with Coach Reeves, God rest his soul. He knew that I knew the offense, and he knew these two guys that they just signed didn't know the offense. So I took all the reps in training camp, took all the reps. And that translated into me going out in the games and really excelling. Every game I was 10 for 12, 2 touchdowns, 8 for 10, 2 touchdowns. So I knew the offense and played super well. And Dan rewarded me after training camp. He cut one of the guys, demoted the guys, and moved me to number 2.
Oh, wow.
So from number 4 at the start of training camp to number 2 to backing up John going into the season.
Well, I'm sure that was some positive reiteration of you as a person, as a quarterback. You know the plays, you know the playbook, you know the offense. So it's not much they got to ramp you up for. But let me ask you this, because in a day and time where you see guys now coming into the league signing $1 million contracts, one of the things that concerns me, and I've said this to some people, is not all systems fit certain guys. And sometimes a guy has to go to a different system that fits him as opposed to the system that may have drafted him. Did you feel like Denver's system kind of fit you, or you had to fit it? And have you known guys that were not good with the first team they started with, but got real good with the next team they went with?
I felt like Denver was a good fit for me. I felt like, I felt like going into my second year, I had developed a unique relationship with Elway, and I tried to mold my game the way he did. Whereas when you're a young quarterback, the first thing you want to do when you get flushed out of the pocket is take off and run. When I would watch Elway, we would talk about it in meetings. As soon as he would get flushed, he would look to throw the ball downfield, and he made a lot of big plays. John wasn't super agile, but he could get out. He could get outside the pocket, and so I would mold my game to somewhat like him, and I think that helped me. But when I went to the next team, I didn't think it was a good fit. I always thought Denver was the right place for me at the right time. I went to Arizona going into my 4th season. It wasn't a good fit for me.
So when that happens mentally, how draining is that? Because you want to perform, you want an opportunity, but maybe you don't have to say so and where you're going. And of course, systems change based on who the head coach is or who the offensive coordinator is. So what kind of transition is that to go to a team where a system that does not fit you, and then you start wondering, what my career is going to be like now, because now I'm in a situation where I'm not feeling comfortable.
Yeah, it was tough for me. I will say it was tough for me. One of the biggest regrets I probably had, even though I wouldn't trade my experience I had in Denver. One of the biggest regrets was not going and seeking the opportunities that presented themselves in Canada, because I went to Canada after 4 years of NFL.
Okay.
I think if I had gone to Canada right out of college, which I did take a visit. I took a visit before the draft.
Where was that?
I went up to British Columbia.
Okay.
With British Columbia. At the time, Doug Flutie was there. And they were getting ready to trade Flutie to Toronto because he had only been there a year and he was still transitioning to the game. He hadn't picked the game up yet. And they were, making a pitch for me. Hey, man, you come here. It's yours to run. So I went there, and my 24-year-old mindset was the money's the same. So if the money's the same, I'm going to, spend my time or try my shot at the NFL. But the smarter thing to do would have been to gone to BC, gotten a lot of playing time, thrown a lot of footballs, learned the game even more at the professional game. And one of the things I love about the CFL is the game is much faster. The ball's in the air all the time. I'll never forget the first CFL game I started in 1995. I played in preseason, and we go into the first regular season game, and we run one play. And there's the difference in play clock in the CFL is extremely different than the NFL. And it's fast. It's fast paced. You only got 3 downs, so you're punting on 3rd down. The first time I go into the game, we run a play. I look to the sideline for the next play, and they go, "You got it." Whoa, I got it. And I didn't realize it, but more than 50% of the players up there called it at that time. Calling their own plays.
Call their own plays.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh Lord Jesus, I gotta, So it put me in a different mindset in terms of preparation and getting ready. Like, it's when you and that's why I think I've enjoyed my role as a coach, both in high school at the collegiate level. It's because I like the idea of being in control of, controlling the game. I like that. I've enjoyed that. Okay. And I love the time that I spent in the CFL. I played 1 year there. I wish I'd have spent more time there. And I wish I'd have gone there right out of college. I think it would have benefited me, my professional career, even more.
Well, let me ask you this one last thing before we go to a break. So if Canada, because it's so fast, because it feels wider and longer, because, it is what it is up there, is Canada sometimes a better fit for a black quarterback than maybe the NFL?
I would say in the past, that's probably been a very accurate statement or sentiment. When I was there, it's funny. I played on 3 different teams. I got traded, and that's just the CFL. The nature of the CFL is, hey man, you could be in one place today and another place tomorrow. I played with Reggie Slack, played at Auburn. I played with Kevin McDougal, played at Notre Dame. I played with what's the guy from the Raiders? I can't think of his name. Gee willikers. I played with a lot of guys up there that were Danny Barrett, who had a great career up there. Okay. I watched Ricky Foggy. I heard you talking about Ricky. Ricky was an amazing quarterback up there. I got to know Marcus Allen's brother, Damon Allen, who played up there. So all those brothers that were playing there and having a lot of success there, like I idolized those guys because they were a little older than me and they had been there for, significant years. But I watched their game, and the way they played the game definitely fit their style. And I would say that it has continued a little bit more today. Like you watch the games now. My son played up there for 8 years, so I've gone to a lot of football games the last 5 years. I've seen a lot of football up there. Last year was his last season. He retired, and I watched a lot. You know, it's funny. I'd go and sometimes I'd go down on the field and I'd see some of the old players that I played with in the CFL, and it is the CFL. It's the same. The one thing I like about it is CFL's older. It's been around longer than NFL, and it's just the fans love the sport. Every little town, it only seats about 30, 40,000, but they come on a Friday, Saturday night, and they pack it in there, and they love the sport. And it's really a fun game to watch up there.
Well, I got my first taste of it when I was about 13, 14 years old, visiting some relatives up in Detroit during the summertime.
Yep.
And turning on the TV and being like, football this time of the year. And then I'm looking at it and, you know, they got the third down and they're punting. I'm like, punting? Why are they punting on third down? But that was a part of the game. So, yeah,
Right.
I got to love it and enjoy it. And I followed it and I've seen many guys go up there. Hey, Sean, stay with us if you can. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in about a minute. Hey, I've got Sean Moore from the University of Virginia with me tonight as our special guest. Stay with us. We're going to take a quick time out and then we're going to come talk a little bit more to Sean here on the Post Route. Stay with us. Well, like Sean Moore and like other guys who played in his era and before, there's no way to know about a lot of these guys unless you have the book called The Forgotten QBs, the little-known history, information, and statistics about Black quarterbacks in American college football. That book was such a joy for me to write and to now have opportunities to talk to guys who are in the book. It just makes the book even more important. But it talks about a lot of the guys between 1903, 1990 who played this game at colleges, at both Black colleges and predominantly white colleges. And a lot of guys you may know, a lot of guys you may not know, ever heard about. But that was the importance of this book, because here at Quarter Five Back, we wanted to make sure that the legacies and the history of guys like a Sean Moore, Chuck Ely, and many, many other guys never get forgotten or left behind, because they are pioneers and everyone is standing on the shoulders of someone else. Get a copy of The Forgotten QBs. Go to our website at quarterphiback.com. Click on the book icon on the webpage and put in your order. Book is only $35. I'll autograph it for you and we'll get it right out to you. That's The Forgotten QBs. And then if you're interested in apparel for your specific Black college or any college, check out the folks out there at the Anthony Lawrence Collection. They've got a phenomenal line of paraphernalia and apparel that you will just love. And I think if you click on that link, AnthonyLawrenceCollection.com, you will find something that you would want to wear at your next event, game, no matter what it is. If you just want to show pride in your alma mater. That's the Anthony Lawrence Collection. Go to their website, AnthonyLawrenceCollection.com. If you look them up, they're out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So tell them you heard about them on the Post Route, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. We're going to get back now to our guest tonight, Sean Moore. Hey, Sean, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you on tonight. And let me tell you, talking to you about your experiences and things of that nature, and then just football in general. Talk a little bit, if you would. Now, I know we talk about that transition, how guys go from one level to the next level. Talk about, now that you've been that coach, how do you prepare guys for not only playing for you as a coach in college, but when they start talking about, well, coach, I want to go to the next level. Talk about the things that go into those conversations.
Well, you know, it's funny now. You know, we live in a culture now of social media, and so you see a lot of, you know, most people are just scrolling on the phone, and so it's funny. Like nothing's secret anymore. You know, nothing is. And you can go in and watch coaches. You know, see coaches pregame speeches and coaches speaking at practice, coaches mic'd up everywhere. So, but something that, you know, Nick Saban talks about all the time, and I've been fortunate because one of my college roommates was on Saban's staff for the last 4 years, and he loved working for the guy. And I know Saban's a hard guy to work for, but Saban said you can be average, you can be good, you can be excellent, you can be elite, and which one you want to be.
Right.
And so all that is it's about preparation. And so you see it with young athletes today, particularly in the sport of football. Now they come in so early. Like just most recently, 2 months ago, we had 17 kids enroll in January.
Yep.
From high school.
Yep.
And so it's that's unheard of in my day. You finish high school, you go to graduation, and you come in the summer with the rest of your classmates. But now these kids are they're so far advanced. They're so far advanced and getting a head start and everything. So, but preparation, that's just the number one thing. Particularly, I watch the sport now, and I watch the position of quarterback, and I watch the guys that are playing today. And there's a lot of brothers playing the position today. I shake my head because back in the day, you look at the 32 rosters back when I was playing, you had about 5 or 6, and you had everybody's number, and hey Warren, hey Randall, that was it.
Yeah.
Rodney Pete, it was just a few of us, and now there's I looked at the Cleveland roster. You have 3 African American brothers playing at the position. They just signed another guy, and it's mind-boggling to me, but it's also it just shows that the direction that color's not a barrier anymore. The fact that these guys are getting opportunities now, it warms my heart. But I know that to some degree, guys like Ricky Foggy and Damon Allen, Walter Jones, they and myself kind of paved the way for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an interesting point, Sean, because I think the speed of the game has been a factor in the fact that perhaps teams now have more black quarterbacks on these teams because of the speed of the game. I mean, you got linebackers running just as fast as running backs and receivers. You got some defensive linemen running faster than quarterbacks. So to kind of offset that, you might need some speed. But then when we talk about talent, when we talk about skills, you talk about preparation, those things are also making a difference. And I've been able to see that over the last couple of years because what I've been doing is tracking guys in high school. Last year in 2022, I had a watch list for high school guys. I had over 300 black quarterbacks at the high school level. This past year in 2023, I had over 400 guys on our watch list. And the guy who won our Built Memorial Trophy this year from high school, he's already at Gainesville at the University of Florida. He threw for 4,800 yards and 58 touchdowns coming out of a high school in Texas.
Wow.
Last year in 2022, there's a kid up in Carrollton, Georgia, as a ninth grader, Sean, 4,100 yards, 48 touchdowns. So it's phenomenal to track these guys, to see that some of these guys are spinning the ball in these programs, man. And like you said, yes, social media is helping. And some guys are putting in that work, man, that, hey, they're working hard because they want to go to that next level.
Yeah, I used to be part of a group when I was coaching high school about 15 years ago, Football University. I think they still exist.
Yeah, they do.
And so I would travel around with some of the top quarterback coaches in the country. We literally would travel around 25, 30 city tour in the spring and the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we would train these quarterbacks. And one of the kids that I actually trained back in the day, who I gotten to know really well, was Dwayne Haskins. And
okay,
got to know him really well. Got to know his family really well. His dad and I still communicate. But you could tell, and the fact that they want to go, you got all these other sports that are going on in the spring and the summer, but these guys are trying to, they're trying to get extremely talented at their craft of playing this quarterback position, because it's a unique position. Quarterback is unlike any position on the field. It's the go-to position. You got to have a guy that can pull the trigger. And so the guys that are putting in this work, I used to watch them, in the summer, those guys that came out and worked their butts off in the summer,
mm-hmm.
those are ones you're going to read about.
Mm-hmm. 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 So knowing that when guys come to Virginia, when you were coaching, did they know you? Did they know who you were?
No,
Guys who
no,
were quarterbacks, did they know who
no,
you were?
not
No.
really. You know, when I was coaching at Virginia, I coached quarterbacks in high school, but when I got to Virginia, I coached receivers. Just it's all about timing. When I got to Virginia,
Okay.
there was only positions available were receivers and tight ends. So I actually coached both. I coached receivers for 2 years and tight ends for a year. So
Okay.
it helped, I think, kind of craft my understanding and knowledge of from a blocking perspective, from a tight end, and just learning from a wide receiver perspective. It was a great experience for me. It really was. Now I've always felt more comfortable, obviously, coaching quarterbacks, having worked with
Hmm.
quarterbacks in the off season and gone to a quarterback camps myself at a young age. So, if I would never say never. I don't ever have to. There's no incentive for me ever to coach again. But when I think of coaching, I think of working with young quarterbacks.
What would you tell guys in high school, the seniors in high school who are looking at going to college? What kind of things would you share with them about what to expect and how to become better players and better athletes?
Well, one is, I think everyone is going to, from a physical perspective,
Hmm.
kids are putting in the work. I mean, you see that on social media and with all the trainers and all the additional folks they have now to work with these student athletes. But to me, it's the knowledge of the game, the mental aspect of it it's a whole different component, and
Hmm.
that's where being prepared really comes into play. Is you have to play the game out in your head. You have to know from a coverage perspective and knowing how to watch film. Some guys go in and watch film for 2 hours, and they just all they've done is waste 2 hours because
Hmm.
they don't know what they're
Right.
watching or what they're looking for. You have to look for certain tendencies. And so, to me, um, it's about being able to go in to grasp what you're seeing, know what you're seeing. Go in with someone that's more advanced. I keep going back to I've always said Gary Trackle was the greatest thing ever for me. I
Right.
didn't know what I was doing when I got to University of Virginia. By the time I left, I knew more football, significantly more football than I did when I arrived, and that's
Okay.
all attributed to Gary Trackle.
Okay. Well, it's nothing like having a good mentor and a good coach to pour into you all the little things, the little nuances, the big stuff, yeah, but those little things, like you said, go watch film. And like you said, guys watching film. Hey, coach, I went and watched some film today. Yeah, what did you learn? No, that's not what you need to be doing. You need to make sure that you learn something every time you're watching film and watching tendencies of cornerbacks and linebackers. I mean, that's what you're looking at. Also, look at some of the things you might be doing wrong to better yourself. So, in a day and time where technology is just so plentiful, it would be hard for a guy to tell me that they can't get better because it's like, son, there's so much technology out there. So, how can you say you can't get better? There's so much out there to help you get better, and
Absolutely,
you got to go work out.
absolutely, no doubt.
So, Sean, who was that guy when you were growing up, man, in high school that you wanted to emulate? Who was that quarterback that you tried to emulate or talked about,
So
or
here's the thing, man. When, like I said, I'm older than people think. So I never forget. I had an uncle who played quarterback uh, in high school. I watched. He was, I guess he's about 12, 14 years older than me. So I watched him at a very young age play quarterback. He went on to play at Virginia State University.
okay?
But he was a huge fan. He kept talking about this guy coming out of Grambling. Obviously, it was Doug Williams. And I never forget, he bought me a shirt back from Florida, and it had Doug's autograph on it. And I probably still have
Wow.
this shirt to this day. And Doug was one of the first people I met when I was a young rookie coming to the NFL. I
Yeah.
got to meet Doug. I got to meet Doug in college because I won different accolades and different awards. I met him at award ceremonies. So we developed a relationship long before I got to the NFL. But when I got to the NFL, he's someone that I kind of leaned on. It's funny, I see him today and I still have a tremendous amount of respect for him just in terms of what he's accomplished. I think every young quarterback that was my generation probably looked up to Doug because of what he was able to accomplish.
Is that why you wore number 12, man?
That's exactly why I wrote number 12. That's I wore 12 in Pop Warner, high school, college, and pro.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I didn't play quarterback, man. I think all of us aspire to play quarterback when we're in our neighborhoods, man. You want to be the guy who can throw the football. And the guy that I, just had the utmost admiration for, he wore number 19 for the Baltimore Colts. And I've always thought that Johnny Unitas, man, was a true treasure because of how he managed the game and the throws he could deliver. But it was just something about him, man. And I know people laughed about those black high top shoes, man, but that guy could get it done. He could spin it. And he had, like you, he had a great receiver. And that great receiver was Raymond Berry. And those guys used to work out after practice, man, like nobody's business. So you get better when you work out with your number one guy. So I can truly appreciate you and Herman working out, man, countless hours after practice was over to make sure that come Saturdays, man, you guys are spinning that thing just like you want to. So yeah. But yeah, Doug Williams is a true treasure. And prior to Doug, there was a guy by the name of James Shaq Harris. And in between the two of them, there was a guy by the name of Matt Reed. Those guys, Coach Eddie Robinson groomed those guys as prototypical NFL quarterbacks. He didn't want the guys to be scramblers. He wanted them to be drop back passes, and he groomed them just to do that. So when you see a Doug Williams being in that position, man, it spoke a lot about his college football coach, Coach Eddie Robinson. So yeah, that said a lot. Well, hey, man, let me tell you, I am just so pleased and happy that we had a chance to catch up with you tonight, man, and talk with you about your career and your experiences and the people who had an impact on your life, especially your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator, because I know that guy meant a lot to you because of what you trained to do. One last question. When did you really recognize that a quarterback was the position you really wanted to be? When did you recognize that?
8th grade, Martinsville High School, new kid at school, didn't know anyone, and they were holding quarterback tryouts. I threw one pass, and everybody else was like, "All right, that's it. I'm going to play receiver. I'm done."
Just like that.
Just like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, again, that speaks towards your talent. And let me tell you, Sean, having watched you spin it on Saturdays on TV, man, and becoming enamored with Virginia Cavalier football during the times that you guys were running through the ACC when you did, man, it was quite a treat because, you get accustomed to the same old teams winning all the time. But then when you see that breakout team come along, just like we kind of saw with Duke this past year, kind of be that breakout team. You guys were that breakout team, but man, that I think what was more amazing was just to know that the more to more combination was fascinating because the first black quarterback at the University of Florida was my teammate Don Gaffney, and his brother played with him both in high school and at Florida. And even when we were in high school, it used to be Gaffney to Gaffney. So when I saw the more to more, I mean, and I'm sure they gave y'all all kinds of little slogans with the more to more thing on campus and who knows whatever else they did to promote you guys. And I'm sure the SID at that time had a great time promoting you for Heisman.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you so very much for joining us. And thank you for now becoming a member of the fraternity of black quarterbacks known as Quarter Five Back. We're going to get some stuff. I'm working on so many things, Sean, but I do have some apparel that I'll be getting out to you guys. I'm definitely going to send you a copy of my book, man, so you can see who else was spinning things before you that made some headway, man. And anything we can do to help you out or whatever, man, please don't hesitate. But congratulations and thank you for being a part of Quarter Five Backs, and we thank you for being on our show tonight.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, take care. God bless.
Take care.
All right, that was Sean Moore. Sean Moore from UVA. spinning it back in the late 89 and 90. Man, he was a phenomenal guy. I would love to see him spin that ball to his number one target, Herman Moore. So we're going to take another quick time out to give you some more of our sponsors. And again, I wanted to remind you that if you want to learn more about black quarterbacks, get a copy of our book, The Forgotten QBs. Go to our website, Quarter Phi Back, Quarter PHI Back. We are the fraternity for black quarterbacks. The book is the little known history, information, and milestones about black quarterbacks who played the game of American college football. It is full of names and statistics and other information that you want to make this one of your collectibles to add to your library. The Forgotten QBs. And if you get a copy, I'll make sure I autograph it and personalize it to you. Go online, Quarter Phi Back, click on the icon on the page about the book and get your copy. $35, shipping is free, and we'll get it right out to you. And then our other partner in what we're doing is the Anthony Lawrence Collection, the home of much of the paraphernalia for black colleges, and they're increasing their inventory to include other colleges from around the country. But if you're looking for that great HBCU gear, the Anthony Lawrence Collection at the AnthonyLawrenceCollection.com. You see it right there on the screen, AnthonyLawrenceCollection.com for HBCU gear. Tell them you heard about them on the post route. If you need to make a call to them, go to their website and you can call in your order, but I'm sure they'd be glad to hear from you. The Anthony Lawrence Collection. So we're going to go back to telling you a little bit of something about more quarterback stuff. As you know, breaking news happened this past week when the Pittsburgh Steelers probably garnered the coup of the offseason as former quarterback Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears and former quarterback Russell Wilson of the Denver Broncos are now both on the roster for Mike Tomlin. Wilson signed a one-year deal. He's coming kind of to the end of his career. Fields could be the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would not be surprised if he becomes that next guy to lead them to the promised land. Outstanding talent. He has a very high IQ. As a matter of fact, when he took the so-called aptitude test for pro football, the high score that he made on the aptitude test was 130. So he's a very intelligent guy, and that's why I was asking Sean about systems fitting. Chicago just may have not been a good fit for him. We will find out once he gets to Pittsburgh if the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is a good fit under Mike Tomlin. We're all waiting to see, I'm sure. Can't wait to see this upcoming football season. But to have a veteran like Russell Wilson, who's going to be the starter with a backup like Justin Fields, I can just imagine what kind of knowledge and information Russell Wilson is going to impart on that young man. A Super Bowl quarterback, able to tell you some things, having played for two class organizations. And the fact that the NFL, pro football, is a business, and these things turn over as they do. When Fields came, another quarterback left Pittsburgh. When Wilson came, another quarterback left. They went to somewhere else. So it's just a rotating thing, but that's the business of this game called professional sports, not just in football, but in all sports at all levels. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on them and the commentary surrounding their efforts. I'm going to be curious to see what numbers they will be wearing when they get to Pittsburgh, because the first quarterback that comes to mind for me at Pittsburgh, first and foremost, would be Joe Gilliam, Jefferson Street Joe. He wore number 17. Of course, Terry Bradshaw wore number 12. And then that guy who got the name Slash. And I did some reading on that. And the reason why he got the nickname Slash is because there was a guy in the organization that said, well, he was a quarterback slash running back slash this slash that. So that's how he got Slash, that nickname. But Cordell Stewart was a phenomenal talent. I look forward to the day we can bring him onto the post route and talk to him a little bit about football at his days out at Colorado, and of course what it was like playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. So until we can have those opportunities, we're going to keep plugging along, trying to make way for the next guy. I'm going to tell you now, our next guest next week is going to be our first collegiate quarterback that we're going to have on the show. And we're looking forward to having Aiden Childs, who is now at Michigan State University after playing 1 year at Oregon State last year. He'll be a sophomore up there in East Lansing. So we're looking forward to having him on the show next week so he can talk a little bit more to us about high school transitioning into college. So that'll be our guest next week. Well, that's going to do it for me tonight on the Post Route. I hope you enjoyed the show. We want to again thank our guest tonight, Sean Moore from the University of Virginia. We thank him. We hope that he had a little minor surgery. We hope he on his foot. We hope he gets well from that and continues to heal and mend well. For my producer and director, Ms. Ronleen Kennedy, we thank you so very much. Please subscribe to the show. Please subscribe to the Post Route. Get a chance, go on and subscribe. The information is there. If you don't see it or didn't see tonight's show, go to our YouTube channel, the Post Route TV, the Post Route Show TV channel, and you can see other episodes of shows we've done in the past with other quarterbacks. And we're just continuing to build our archives with these guys who have made the legacies and histories for guys who look like myself, black quarterbacks here at the Post Route. So until next Monday, wishing you the best. Hope everything goes well for you next week. And as we say always, go deep, go for the bomb. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.